inherited properties from their ancestors. You too. You've inherited properties from your parents. Maybe your nose looks just like your dad's. Maybe you have curly hair, just like your mom. When you start to look, you'll find plenty of characteristics that you and one of your parents have in common. So, some way, your body learned how it was to develop and look. That information came from your parents. And it must have been there even before you were born, in the very first cell that was about to become your body. Something in that cell carried information about you. Here is the cell. There, in the cell nucleus, there is a tangle of twisted rope ladders. They consist of a substance called DNA. There, in the DNA, we find the information. That's it. All information about the inherited traits, or the genes, exists in a few long twisted rope ladders called DNA. Something happens. The DNA is sorted in chromosomes that organize themselves. They line up, and the cell divides. And those rope ladders are now present in both cells. They were copied when the cell divided. So we now have two cells with identical rope ladders in the nucleus. Every time the cells divide, the chromosomes are copied. Today, your body is built of many billions of cells, and in almost everybody there are identical chromosomes. So the genes carrying information about you are present in all cells in your body. And it's the same for every organism, every single one. The chimpanzee, the white shark, the blackbird, or the wild rose. They all have chromosomes in the cells that carry information about how they will develop. The closer two organisms are related, the more similar are their genes. You and your siblings are closely related and look like each other. You have a lot of genes in common. The more remotely you are related, the more the chromosomes differ in number and composition. In almost all human cells, there are 46 chromosomes. Chimpanzees have 48 chromosomes in each cell. They are similar to human chromosomes in many ways, and this is why we can see so many similarities between chimpanzees and humans. Wild roses don't look like humans or chimpanzees, and if we look, we find only 14 chromosomes in each cell, and they make the plant develop stems, leaves, thorns, and flowers. The genes of the rose differ a lot from the humans, and hence the two species are very distantly related. This is a foundation for all life and for how traits are inherited. The DNA molecules, the chromosomes, are copied when the cells divide, and the genes are passed on from generation to generation. The genes control your development from one single cell to a body with brain and lungs and legs and arms. You have received the genes from your parents. They got their genes from their parents. The closer the relationship, the more simple. All life consists of cells. There's daisy too. Here is one of the cells of the daisy with the genome, DNA, in the cell nucleus. Now it divides, and during the cell division, DNA is copied. The new cell gets a copy of the first cell's, the mother cell's, DNA. A copy which is perfect, or almost perfect. Changes in the genome, mutations, occur all the time. A new cell then gets DNA molecules that are a tiny bit different from those of the mother cell, but in the vast majority of cases it has no significance at all. But there is a special case, something very rare that has had an enormous significance. Watch. We see one of the daisy's cells again, it divides, and during this division, two important things happen. There is a mutation in a gene, that is, in any of the parts of the DNA which are recipes for proteins, and it happens in a sex cell. And a sex cell can be the start of a totally new individual. So, if this cell is conceived and sets root, and then grows to become a new flower, then all the other cells in that flower get copies of the changed gene. The new daisy has slightly different genes, and slightly different properties than the previous generation, and slightly different properties than all the other daisies in the meadow. Now the question is, which one of these individuals holds up best in the environment? Which can best endure dry weather? Which can best handle heavy pelting rain? The daisies with the best characteristics in this particular environment will survive and spread exactly those characteristics. We see a natural selection. These types of mutation, the ones that change the offspring, they almost always cause the offspring to hold up worse. Then the natural selection causes the mutation to disappear. The individual with the new, impaired trait will have a lower chance of survival. The trait dies out. But if the rare thing happens that the mutations cause an improvement, that is a better adaptation to the environment, the mutation and the trait remains and is spread. Then the altered, mutated daisy will live on. It reproduces generation after generation, and every generation has the mutated gene with the new trait. At some point, another new mutation may occur in a gene, in a sex cell, that will become a new individual, and if this tiny change also fits well into the environment, the flower will change one step further. It will be just a bit more different from the first daisy. What we've seen are two small steps in the process that has caused the development of all life on Earth: evolution. The DNA molecule is copied, but is copied only almost perfectly. This is the foundation of evolution. During the development of life, traits and characteristics have occurred through random mutations in the genome. This has caused changes in traits in tiny, tiny steps from one generation to the next. Natural selection decides which traits will become successful and spread. Although each step is tiny and every mutation might seem insignificant, all those steps have been taken over the course of hundreds of millions of years, and they have driven the development of life, from single-celled organisms to the variety of species that